Welcome to another edition of Who's Better Baseball. We got a trade this morning. Also, I'm just tuning into that. Aaron Savali going to the Brewers. Good to see them get some pitching help. But we are in the best part of the season. We have reached July, All-Star break coming up, deadline at the end of the month, and we are going to talk about some division races. We're going to do a fun home run derby relay draft. So a lot to discuss here, Patrick. How are things going for you lately covering the Rockies and everything else you got going on for us?
It's good. We're gearing up towards the 4th of July, couple fireworks
Yep.
night at Coors Field. So Brewers are in town. Been a few more interesting games. It always is at Coors Field. It's never old with the Rockies, who have given up 14 last at bat losses. Unfortunately, the bullpen struggling badly. I know your Mets are doing a little bit better than that.
Little bit. We saw two games that pretty much mirrored each other in Washington to start off this week. Couple extra innings where the Mets exploded offensively after struggling in the first nine offensively to get back on track after losing to the Astros over the weekend, which brings us to one of our first topics of the day. The Houston Astros. They're back. I got to own it. I was wrong because on this show, we did a lot of are the Astros dead? Are they going to be trade deadline sellers? You always were the voice of reason. It's the Astros. It's early. Let's wait. Myself, I was ready to give up on them. And here they are, just a couple games back of the Mariners in this division. What's the bigger story? The fact that the Astros have stormed into this race again, or that the Mariners never took it? Because I feel like it can go both ways. This was an opportunity for the Seattle Mariners to create some separation. They never quite did that. And here the Astros are after a fantastic month of July where they were the best team in baseball, or excuse me, month of June where they're the best team in baseball. Now in July, they are right there on the cusp of taking this division back.
I have to say that the story is more about the Astros charging back. I think obviously Houston is just the bigger market, the bigger story, the more storied franchise right now as of recent than Seattle. And it just seems like it's about them. And it's less of a surprise that they would do this, at least to me, that they'd be able to roar back into the race just 3 games back of the first place Mariners than it is about the Mariners kind of never really taking hold, to use your words there. A really strong roster, incredible starting pitching, and yet it's not enough. And they're going through those lulls right now and in mid-season. And by no means does this mean that the Astros are going to continue on this trajectory and lock down the AL West. Maybe the story is the fact that they were able to get back into this hunt for the pennant in their division so quickly, because it seemed like we were ready to rule them out in mid-May almost. Like they just couldn't get their feet underneath them. They won the 2 games in Mexico City against the Rockies, and yet still couldn't maintain that momentum. And now we're seeing that 8-2 in their last 10, and just really looking like this Astros club that, partially that we've expected them to be and that they've been, but the fact that they're getting contributions from a lot of different guys and they're just plugging in. It's a winning culture, and they're getting everybody to buy into that and say, despite the fact that we were really bad in April, we are a really, really good team.
I think a couple of things that stand out to me with this Houston Astros club is the fact that, for one, their bullpen is stabilized. That's a big difference that we've seen from early in the season to all of a sudden see Brian Abreu and Ryan Presley do what they've done in the past. We went into the year saying, man, Abreu, Presley, Hader doesn't get better than that. And it has looked better than that from some other teams like the Guardians and others that have put together a better bullpen up to this stretch. But now you're seeing those guys start to pitch up to their capability. But the bigger story is Hunter Brown. All of a sudden, a newfound ace for the Astros since the calendar turned to June. Hunter Brown has made 6 starts. He's 5-0. He's got a 0.97 ERA, and this is after pitching to an ERA. I think it might have been north of 5 earlier in the year. Now, all of a sudden, he is living up to his potential as one of their former top prospects that is stabilizing a rotation that has dealt with just a ton of injuries this year.
Yeah, that's how you're able to sustain success over multiple seasons is when one guy goes down, you have to have somebody else that can step back up. And it seemed like Hunter Brown was going to be that next guy. And as you said, just really struggled in the first part of this first half. And now you look back at his last 7 starts, 1.05 ERA, just eating up innings, 6 innings, just about every single start, striking out batters, not giving the free passes, and really just being that guy that he was kind of expected to be, probably even better than that, right? So, they're getting those contributions, and it's not necessarily a surprise. I think there were enough signs there to suggest, okay, this is going to be the end of their run, right? They don't have Dusty Baker there. They've got a new manager. So, maybe that throws a wrench into things. Guys are a little bit older. Alex Bregman is on the precipice of free agency. They re-sign Altuve, but not Bregman. And it's kind of they're at a crossroads, and it really looked like they weren't going to get it done. But when you just put that many talented players in the same clubhouse and all the great baseball minds that have come through Houston over the past decade plus and that are still there, you still have to like their odds for pulling this out and winning the AL West and making the postseason yet again.
When you talk about Alex Bregman nearing a contract, a new one, and you think about the lineup that they have, and you compare it to what they got going on in Seattle, Seattle clearly has the rotation, but here this Astros team has since June and really even a little bit before that, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman are all hitting. Yainer Diaz is hitting, and they've done all this without Kyle Tucker, who we've given a lot of love on this show, who fouling off his shin has been out for a while now. Now they might get him back soon to take the lineup to another level. It's the difference that they can really create the separation with their bats that the Mariners have not been able to. I think that's the separation that makes me all of a sudden be like, all right, maybe the Astros are the favorite in this division again, despite the fact that they got off to such a brutal start.
Yeah, getting contributions from Jake Myers as well.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that the Astros are getting the typical MVP type season and not number 1 through 3 places in voting, but just a top 10 guy. He's going to be on a couple people's ballots at worst. You're getting those MVP type seasons from Yordan Alvarez. You got in Jose Altuve, the Just Baseball Player of the Month for April. And you're getting it from those players that you're counting on. And you're not getting it from Alex Bregman just yet. He's been a little bit better over the last month. Batting average is definitely taking a step forward. But still, you've got 2 of those guys to really lock down that lineup and give some stability to. Whereas if you look at the Mariners, they're still waiting on Julio Rodriguez. I think there was even, some kind of initiative by Mariners fans to get going and to give a big rousing round of applause to Julio Rodriguez, kind of trying to take a page out of the Trey Turner book from last year with Phillies fans. Much different situation, but still the concept there is, hey, this guy is a great player and they just need a little bit something extra to get going because the momentum is not there and it's just not happening for him. And so for the Mariners to not get that from Julio Rodriguez, but they are getting it from the rotation, it's not enough. You need all of those pieces working for you. It's almost like a 3-legged stool where you need the rotation, you need the lineup, and you need the bullpen to be doing it. And if you're missing one of those legs, you're going to fall over.
You are for sure. And Julio Rodriguez, you look at the month of June in comparison, we're talking with the Astros guys, he is right below he was right below the Mendoza line, 198 average. So, J-Rod needs to hit. There's no way around that. As much as we can talk about, all right, the Mariners can make, a trade for an outfielder, X, Y, and Z, however they can get that lineup going, which will be important. If you don't have your franchise player, your MVP doing it day in, day out, it's really hard for other guys to pick up that slack. No one really can. So if the Mariners are going to take advantage of the fact that they might have the best rotation in baseball, every 5th day they put out a starter you feel good about, you got to score some runs for them. And I actually, to assign a story to one of our co-founders, but I reached out to Aram Layton and I said, dude, the same way you broke down Corbin Carroll's swing, can you do that for Julio Rodriguez? What's going on? So for all of you watching, something exciting that could be in the works coming up soon here on the site. to try to figure it out. But that's the biggest thing with this Mariners team. It's a wasted opportunity because they could be way ahead in this division, but they still have a lead. So hopefully they get J-Rod going soon.
And going forward, I don't like the looks of things for what could possibly come for the Mariners, because as Jerry DiPoto even said this past offseason when they made these smaller moves, that it's about sustainability. It's about taking more bites of the apple rather than one real big one or a couple real big ones. So they're going to have to be a little bit cautious, and I think they're going to navigate that way on the trade market and not give up some of their best trade chips, to be a little bit more frugal, right, to get that sustainability, because they've got this rotation in place under club control for several more years now, so they don't necessarily need to go all in, whereas we've talked about it before when we were saying, hey, Astros, Rangers, who's going to pull away, who's going to be more aggressive at the deadline, and it just really pointed a lot more to the Astros doing that with their window than the Rangers and all their stars that they've got locked up over the next several years. So I think the same is true here when we put the Astros against the Mariners, is that I think Houston's going to be a little bit more aggressive and has perhaps more wiggle room, for lack of a better term, than the Mariners, who are really looking at that sustainability piece to say, well, you know, we might need this guy to plug in next year on our roster in 25 or 26 when we're still going to be really, really good. So we can't make that trade. So here's who we've got left over. Here are the pieces. Hopefully they can do some bartering and improve that roster, but it might not be as much as the Houston Astros are willing to give.
Yeah, it's, the expectations that you set for yourself as a team and what you decide to do with them. It really is, the month that you decide where are you going to go. And I think there's a world where the Rangers are sellers. I mean, I'm looking at who are the top starting pitchers available, and I think, man, maybe Nathan Eovaldi gets on the market, because the Rangers, while they want to defend their crown, they might just get to a point where the race gets away from them. And this could become a two-team race down the stretch. Last year, the Rangers were the team that was out in front early in the season. They eventually ended up losing the division late to the Astros. What do you think it is about that pedigree that not only helps you finish a season strong and grab a division, but also the Mariners right now that have had this division throughout this year? Like, how panicked are they? We're right in the rearview mirror. It's not just, a team is catching us. It's not like if the Rangers were in the position that the Astros were in, would it be as daunting as, there's the big bad Astros that have won the last 6 divisions in a full season that are right there. I feel like there's just something about that sort of sleeping giant that has woken up that really puts you on edge if you're trying to hold on to a division lead.
It's true. And if the Rangers are looking up in the standings and the wild card rankings, they're seeing the Tampa Bay Rays, who are 4 games better than them, selling an Aaron Savali and getting a prospect like Gregory Barrios from the Milwaukee Brewers. The Rangers have to think, oh, maybe we need to do the same too. Probably after the All-Star break, after everyone's excited, everyone's feeling good. But maybe we'll wait until July 30th. We'll wait to that 4 p.m. Eastern deadline to really offload some of those guys so that we can retool and get back, because they do have some expiring pieces. We've talked about that in the past. Go back and make sure you're listening to that anywhere you can listen to podcasts or over on the YouTube side, because the Rangers, they're not done right now as far as their window. It just opened up. They went from 100 losses to the World Series in 2 years in a similar fashion as the Arizona Diamondbacks. So they're going to be around again. It's just, is it going to be this year? Are they going to figure it out or not? And I think it makes it pretty easy for them to, when the time comes at the end of this month, if they're not in it, to say, all right, you know what? Maybe we need to be a little bit like the Rays just for right now and take a step back, and that'll just make us that much stronger in 25.
They're a team that, they have all the resources right now to make moves, but you have to, be realistic. And if you're going to be gearing up year over year, this might be a year to see the writing on the wall and take advantage, trade some of those pieces and regroup, which is what makes this division so interesting, because it really could turn into that 2-horse race. And it'll be fascinating to see if the Mariners can hit their stride offensively. We saw them last year, in August, really sort of take off. So maybe they are a second half team again, and it really is a thrilling race between those two clubs. Let's talk about another division race. So the Minnesota Twins, I assigned an article to one of our writers yesterday about the fact that Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, and Royce Lewis were all healthy at the same time. Let's jump on this. We don't know how long we'll have. And I mean, the worst possible news, Royce Lewis, a groin injury, leaves last night's game. We don't know. I mean, let's actually start there before we talk about the division. How frustrating and disappointing is it? Because you hear him after the game and they ask him about it. He a guy that typically can be optimistic. The last time he got hurt this year was, I think I'll be back. It was, well, I don't know. I usually get awful news, so we'll see what happens. It's devastating for the Twins and just for baseball fans that are watching this guy that has shown glimpses of being a top 5, top 10 player in baseball when he's on the field, but he just can't stay on the field.
It's so rough for him to have to deal with that, and for baseball fans at large, right? Baseball's better with a healthy Royce Lewis, and this is an important time for his career to not establish himself as this name or to build some kind of reputation, because I think he already kind of has this reputation, despite not maybe having the numbers and a big league track record to show it. But this is a time for him to like build this resume as far as his development and what is he going to be? Could he be a 50 home run guy for a season or two, or is it a 40 home run guy? Or because of all the injuries, he just stays at a 30 home run pace, which is still, again, a great career. It's great to be able to have that even as a number 1 overall pick. There's guys who've never even been in the majors who've been first overall. We know the MLB draft is a crapshoot. So that's where there's some disappointment and frustration, is that we won't know what the healthy Royce Lewis version would be, if he was able to stay on that kind of trajectory. But even still, it's just disappointing for him, because one of the best abilities to have, and again, he's got that hit tool, solid defender, came up as a shortstop, moved over to third base. But one of the best abilities to have that he is showing that he does not have, and is one of the biggest reasons why there are plenty of names out there that we've never heard of. And yet people will say, oh, you should have seen so-and-so play. They were one of the best in their generation, yet nobody's ever heard of them. It's because they lack the ability of availability. And that is so crucial. And we don't really know what goes into that, what makes certain guys maybe more injury prone than others, but he lacks the ability to be available. And that's just again, disappointment for him, frustrating for him, for Twins fans, for baseball fans. And that's going to have an impact on this AL Central race going forward, especially if the Twins are going to make a run at the Cleveland Guardians.
We got 23 games out of Royce Lewis since he came back from the last injury. He hit 9 home runs. It just shows you the potential, a guy to be able to have a 10 home run month, which is what he was trending towards in about that type of a sample, would have been double digits. It's so frustrating, and especially for a franchise that has dealt with this year over year with Byron Buxton, a guy that at times you'll see, oh man, Byron Buxton can be the best center fielder in baseball. Byron Buxton can be the best player in baseball. He's just that good, and he can't stay on the field. So I don't know what's going on. I'm sure there's some fans that are blaming the training staff in Minnesota. I don't know who you could blame. It's probably just some really unfortunate set of circumstances, but it's a team that has so much talent. And as we look at the division race, it's been sort of a foregone conclusion, right? The Guardians are going to win this division. The Twins are right there. If there's a team that can make a run, it feels like it's the Twins over the Royals now. And a big part of that is Carlos Correa is back to being himself. He's been there, stable force, a guy that's been playing in all these games. And you look at his numbers since the month of May, he's hitting 320. So Carlos Correa all of a sudden looks like the guy that got those big contracts from Minnesota, and that might carry them despite the fact that Lewis is not going to be available for some time potentially.
Buxton is having a strong month. Carlos Santana as well. Even Willie Castro.
Yeah,
just one of those guys you plug in and you say, oh, now you get why they were able to trade Jorge Polanco to Seattle there. So they're getting those contributions from those guys. Trevor Larnach even is hitting third in their lineup, the last couple of days. So look, they're going to be okay. We know baseball, that's one of the beauties of this game and sport that we love, is that it takes more than just one player. It takes more than just three. There's no such thing as a big three when it comes to baseball. You need contributions from everybody. And so Minnesota is going to be okay for the time being. It's definitely going to hurt their push going forward. I know in the second half, they've got a harder strength of schedule than the Cleveland Guardians. So that's going to obviously make things a little bit more difficult for them going forward, but they've still got several more matchups, and that's really where they can make up some ground. I know the Royals, when they played the Guardians, we were really hyped up at that series, and it did not go well for the Royals, and that put them just that much further back. The Twins, that's going to be one of those spots where, all things considered with the injuries, they can make up serious ground if they can take a series, or if they can even sweep the Guardians the next time they line up across from one another.
I think it's 8 more games, 2 different 4-game series that these two teams play. And so, yeah, if you sweep them, or if the Twins just win each of those series, that's going to be some big ground that they can pick up. With Cleveland, we have a lot of questions about their rotation, but their lineup has been so good. Having Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, David Fry, they've really found a group that works for them. I feel like the Twins lineup is not that far off, and it might even be deeper, but still the Guardians, with their great bullpen, have been able to manufacture, I think, some better pitching. What do the Twins need to do at this deadline to try to catch them? Because they have a pretty decent rotation. If Pablo Lopez pitched like himself, that might be the only thing that they're missing from really taking off. But it's funny because I don't necessarily see where the Twins need to shore up their roster. But if they get a couple pieces in here, I still think that the Guardians are a team that can be caught, especially if Cleveland's not aggressive themselves at the deadline.
As you said, it's almost superfluous to try to have an upgrade where you say, hey, we're okay right here, and we think we can get better production out of this player. But to go out and make an upgrade like that, it might not be necessary. Bullpen is just the one spot that I see a need to upgrade the rotation. As you said, you're gonna go ahead and bank on the fact that those guys are going to continue to pitch well. Simeon Woods Richardson is going to be there and continue to do that. But one of the things that they could do that I'd be shocked if they did, and I don't even know who this person would be, but to be on Cleveland's level, and we're gonna look at this in just a little bit, power hitters for teams, but take anyone as your number 3 for the Cleveland Guardians, because you got Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, and fill in the blank. You like those 3 a little bit better than Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, and Royce Lewis, partially because of those injury concerns, partially because of the inability for Carlos Correa to be consistent. We haven't really seen that full season in Minnesota yet that he was able to provide in Houston. So they just lack that little bit of extra oomph that I think the Cleveland Guardians lineup has and rotation has. I mean, they've got the luxury of sending Tristan McKenzie down to the minors to be able to retool because their pitching depth has been so good. They're also doing it at a time in which I think there's a Tristan McKenzie bobblehead coming up this weekend in Cleveland. And they're like, great, we're trying to win a pennant here for Stephen Vogt. Like, he's our guy. He's the skipper. He's the new one. We're also doing it for Terry Francona because he has shaped this roster and the development of so many of these young players just as much as well. So the Guardians are going to go after it. I think they're going to make those moves on the edges to fortify anything that they need. A lot of guys can get injured between now and the July 30th trade deadline. You hope that doesn't happen, but that does seem to be the trend right now in baseball, with just anyone and everyone getting hurt. So I don't know if the Twins can match the Guardians at the deadline. I don't even know if they will try to attempt that because, again, these small market clubs, they can't totally mortgage the future to go after it. But bullpen for the Twins, same thing for the Guardians.
It's going to be a really close race down the stretch between these two clubs. And I think ultimately at this stage, we have to just look at what we've seen so far. And the Guardians have simply been the better team. They have whatever it is, the magic going where they find their way to win series, where they have a big matchup like against the Royals, like you mentioned. And you think, man, all right, this is Kansas City's chance to show that they're just as good and they can contend. And the Guardians handle business. So we'll see if they continue to handle business and hold on to that division race. I think if you compare the Guardians to the Mariners, who we talked about before, I like the Guardians' chances better to hold on to their division lead. Let's switch over to some player comparisons here. On last week's show, I had mentioned who's the best hitter in baseball? Is it Aaron Judge or is it Shohei Ohtani? I think this is a debate that we're going to be having for the next 3 years potentially to see which of these guys puts forward the better season. Is it clear, though, that these are the two best hitters in baseball? You got one in the American League, one in the National League. No one is quite as good as Ohtani or Judge right now.
You'd have to say that. Absolutely. And when you say best hitter, that encompasses a lot. It doesn't encompass defense. It doesn't encompass base stealing. And it doesn't just encompass batting average, because that's obviously a much different situation. It's to be able to make contact and hit for power. And there just hasn't been guys for the last 3 years or more that have been doing it at this high of a level as Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. And I'm not really sure who you would even put in as a number 3, because the rest of the guys or candidates that you might even speculate about, you've got questions, and some of it could just be injuries, because Bryce Harper, I'm sure, would love to be a part of this conversation, and he's probably watching Who's Better Baseball over on YouTube right now, banging the table saying, all right, I need to step up. I need to get back. I need to get healthy so I can be in this conversation maybe next month for Ryan and Patrick. I'm sure of it. That's what's going through his head. But again, if you're not on the field, that's going to impact, the conversation. And both these guys have been relatively healthy. They've been on the field. They've been in the lineup. They've been in the batter's box at least. And I don't even know who would be a number 3. It's absolutely Ohtani versus Aaron Judge. Who is the better hitter? Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's crazy to look at how much they've sort of created some separation. Granted, Gunnar Henderson probably deserves to enter this conversation in some respects, but there's something that Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani have done that other guys haven't this year. The batting average, over 300. Gunnar Henderson's at 288. Bryce Harper is at 303, so he does enter that billing a little bit. The on-base percentage, over 400. Juan Soto belongs to both of those groups. So you have Soto, who's right there. Bryce Harper's a point away on the on-base percentage, so he's right there. So I'd say those 4 guys really have done something special. But then there's the home runs, and that's what takes it to another level. Gunnar Henderson has it. He's got 26 home runs. Ohtani's got 27. And then you have Aaron Judge, who's got 32. And this is where I make the case for why Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball right now. He got off to a slow start. We can make these numbers even more crazy by channeling into when he really got going. But just for the full season, Aaron Judge is hitting 321, 440 on base, 718 slug with 32 bombs, and he's got 83 RBIs with a week and a half left to play before the All-Star break. I mean, he might be at 90 RBIs by the All-Star break with 35 bombs. It's insane, the video game numbers this guy puts up.
I think right now, if we're talking about the best hitter in baseball, you can't just look at this season. And again, it's part of the conversation, but if you still need to be one of the best hitters in the game right now. That's part of that math. But you need a little bit of a track record as well. And again, we know Ohtani and Judge have that. And we're seeing in the chat from Ian, again, live on YouTube. You can go ahead and leave some comments there as well, even after you listen to the show. But I think we might all be in agreement, despite the fact that maybe a casual fan would go one way over another. Aaron Judge has to be the best hitter in baseball right now when you break it down. Just even looking at this year's stats in 2024 and even going back to 2021 when Ohtani emerged from his cocoon and said, okay, now I'm ready to take my full form as both a pitcher and a hitter. If you're just looking at the offensive numbers, they very much favor Aaron Judge, despite the fact that he's not pitching. And maybe, for a guy who's in New York playing for the Yankees, maybe he deserves a little bit more press, as strange as that is to say. But Judge versus Ohtani, I think a lot of people would probably say, well, Ohtani's the better hitter. Look at all the things that he does and everything that he's able to provide as a player. But we're not talking about just the player piece. We're talking about the hitter. And when you're looking at the numbers, at the rate stats, they really do favor Aaron Judge.
They do. You just mentioned 2021, where Ohtani really hit that next level as a player. If you look at these past 4 seasons here, including this year, Aaron Judge, 296 hitter. Okay. Only guys who have a better batting average since 2021: Luis Ariz, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Jose Altuve. On base percentage, Juan Soto, his teammate, the only one with the better one, 426, Aaron Judge, 408. Slugging percentage, nobody's better. Ohtani, second best at 595. Aaron Judge, a 633 slugging percentage. And we talk about WRC plus a lot at Just Baseball. It is weighted runs created plus. It's a stat that is all encompassing. It's park adjusted. It really does tell us who the best hitters are. And it's based on that league average of 100. Aaron Judge has a 186 WRC plus over 4 seasons. He has been 86% better than your league average hitter. And you compare him to Ohtani, who's second best at 162, 24% better than Shohei Ohtani, who's been the second best hitter in baseball. Jordan's close to him, though. Mike Trout, smaller sample size, close to him. Juan Soto's close to him. Bryce Harper's close to him. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. All those guys are within 10 to 15 points in WRC plus. And then you have Aaron Judge, just sky above everyone else. He's the best player in baseball. I don't know how long he keeps it up, but at least for now, no one's better than Aaron Judge.
And we know that rate stats should carry a lot more value than the counting stats, because that's just being there and racking something up. Whereas the rate stat says when you are in there, here's what you're going to do, despite the fact that maybe you haven't gotten as many opportunities. Well, Shohei Ohtani, believe it or not, because of that toe injury last year, that sidelined Aaron Judge for so much. One of the reasons why he's probably was slept on a little bit going into this year. And with him being on the wrong side of 30, you go, you know what? Maybe this starts his decline. It absolutely did not. But Ohtani has almost 35 more games played than Aaron Judge. That being said, still since 2021, Judge has more home runs and more RBI than Shohei Ohtani. So whether it's the rate stats or the counting stats, there's definitely a ton of favor for a guy like Aaron Judge. And, if it was a little bit closer, we could get to some of the nuance of saying, like, well, who's behind Judge in the lineup and who's behind Ohtani. We know Judge has had some better lineups and certainly a lot of better players in front of him in the lineup than Ohtani, which leads to the higher RBI totals. But still, these are the two best hitters in the game on two different coasts, now in two different leagues. And it's a fun debate, but it really has to come down, I think, to Aaron Judge. And, going forward, who would you rather have? Again, maybe the body type for Ohtani lends you to say, okay, I'd rather have Shohei Ohtani going forward. Again, a little bit younger, so that certainly does help. He doesn't have to play the field right now at this point, so that's going to keep him just that much more healthier. But again, if we're talking just about the best hitter in the game, it's Aaron Judge.
It's Aaron Judge for sure. And yeah, that future conversation is where it gets interesting. And obviously Ohtani being able to pitch, that puts him in a league of his own. But if you're just looking at hitters, or even if you said Ohtani's not going to pitch again and he's going to end up playing right field, and these guys are going to almost mirror each other in the outfield as well. Aaron Judge, despite being 3 years older, is just the guy right now that has put up the best numbers year over year. So I think it's pretty clear he is the best hitter in baseball, even though Ohtani can make it close at times and certainly can awe us. I think we like Aaron Judge, which then leads us to our most exciting part of the show today. We're doing a draft. We're reimagining the home run derby. So I had the thought the other day, I said, man, what would a home run derby relay race look like? Not four guys running in, grabbing the bat from each other and trying to hit the most home runs in a couple minutes, although that would be really fun too. Instead, this would be, all right, imagine Major League Baseball said, we're going to have teams compete in the derby, not players. And a different guy has to hit each round. Who can put together the best team of 3 home run derby hitters that can, beat out the competition and win that type of a tournament? So what we're going to do first, before we get into actually playing this thing out, is we're going to draft some trios here. So we're going to go back and forth. We're going to do a snake draft for anyone who's been paying attention to Who's Better Baseball for a while. I struggle in the snake department, but Pack's just going to keep me in line here, keep my head on straight. There's a team that has maybe the best hitter in baseball we just talked about that probably is the best for this type of a tournament. So this is important to decide who goes first. I got a coin here. I don't know if you can see it, but you got to
Yeah, I
trust
can
me.
see the coin, but I can see the ridge. I can't see what's on top. I can only see
You're gonna
straight in.
you're gonna have to trust me here. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Really?
I'm honest. I'm honest. So
I think we should ask the chat and say whatever name we see first, they should go first
oh
in the
really?
draft. Just
Yeah.
put it
All
on
right.
that. That
You know what? That's fine. If
but
someone watching, tell us who should draft, Patrick or Ryan. Who gets the Yankees?
and what's interesting too is like this concept of like a team of three is something that is done right now. That home run derby X that they do in like minor league cities all around the United States. They get some softball players in there, some former big leaguers. I think Jake Arrieta's team won it in Hartford. I'm going to keep talking before we announce who actually won. But yeah, like this is actually a really fun concept, and I think this could be something that you could do at a futures game, things of that nature. Okay, so my homeboy Ian there, what's up, dude? Pat goes first. Okay.
He apologized, but there it is. So I guess you get the first pick. So is it an open and shut case? The New York Yankees, I'm assuming, are the pick you're going to take here.
It's got to be the New York Yankees as the best trio for the home run derby. Not only do you get the best hitter in the sport right now, the last few years, as we just established, a guy who won the 2017 home run derby, becoming the first rookie to do it at the event. You also get the guy who won it the previous year in San Diego, and Giancarlo Stanton won the 2016 home run derby. And you also have a guy who won the home run derby in 2022 in Los Angeles, defeating Julio Rodriguez. And he also put up quite a show. They had to go to double overtime in 2021 in Colorado, first home run derby right after the pandemic. And I think it was 31-28, two left-handed hitters hitting it right to us, actually, in the auxiliary press box. We were in right field in the second deck. And it was quite a show. And you get Judge, you get Soto, you get Stanton. I'm just going to phone it in the last three. I might let Ian just pick the rest of the way, my final three teams. I'm glad New York Yankees, 3 home run derby winners. No team right now currently has more than one.
Yeah, there's a pretty clear favorite, okay, for sure. So the question is, who can maybe compete? And ultimately, you need a guy that could beat an Aaron Judge in the last round. So for the second pick in our home run derby relay draft, it's a really tough one, but I think I got to go with the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see Gunnar Henderson. He's the first face that has shown itself to be the guy they're going to market this derby around this year. And if you can get Gunnar in that race and you have the youthful exuberance of a stud who is making a name for himself, I like what the Orioles have with Gunnar. Adley Rutschman, I don't think he performed well in a home run derby, if my memory serves correctly. So I don't necessarily love that. I don't know if I want to see a Colton Cowser, maybe a Heston Kjerstad. Maybe I get a different young guy to take that first round off of Adley's plate. I don't know. You have Santander, who could be an absolute stud in the derby as well. I'm just banking on the Orioles find their way to the final round for me, where Gunnar Henderson can take it.
And look, if there's an injury, boom, you've got substitutions left and right. I believe the Orioles have the most players, 7 that have 10 or more home runs. Like that's what we're dealing with. So, and look, if we're opening this up to guys that are on the payroll, I mean, maybe Chris Davis flies in a helicopter. Why not? Like, whatever. Look, if we're making this up, if we're doing some fantasy booking, Chris Davis as your third alongside Adley Rutschman, who, by the way, did put on a nice little show in Seattle last year, hitting from both sides of the plate. That was very entertaining. I can say that. And Gunnar Henderson, whatever your 3 is in Baltimore, I think that's a good pick.
Well, if I was wrong and Adley had a good tournament last year, then I feel a lot better about my selection. My memory might be failing me on that one. Look, as we're going through these teams, I'm curious, what are we doing with injured players? Because if you tell me I have a healthy Mike Trout and I can have like Mike Trout, Joe Adell, and Logan O'Hoppe or Taylor Ward, I don't love the Angels, but I'm just curious. Or Mookie Betts for the Dodgers, are we factoring them in? Because when I was going through the thought exercise, I was sort of looking at it as guys who are clearly out for this year's Derby. I wasn't considering, but where are you at on injured players as we go through this?
Well, when we originally pitched this idea to Commissioner Rob Manfred, he said, you know what? Well, we're going to have some guys that are hurt. And so I think that could really impact, how quality of an event this is. So that's ultimately why he rejected it. So you know what? Since we wanted to include the injured players and it's not going to happen, and this again is just fantasy booking, I think the injured guys definitely need to be in the mix.
All right. So if we're keeping the injured guys in, I think I like the Dodgers then for my next pick because you got Shohei Ohtani. Okay. He's going to be great in the final round. I don't love Freddie Freeman in a home run derby for whatever reason. I just feel like, at that point, how much does he care anymore? He's a little, later in his career. But if you tell me Mookie Betts is healthy and he can take one of the rounds, and you also have Teoscar Hernandez, I like what the Dodgers can bring, especially, again, if we can get that dream matchup we were just talking about. If you get Ohtani and Judge in a final round of a home run derby, that's something that we'll probably never actually get to see. But, man, it'd be exciting if we did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The name power for those guys are great. I think Betts was in the home run derby last year.
Yeah.
Didn't fare very well. Freeman went up against Bryce Harper, lost in the first round in 2018. And again, Ohtani lost in his first round matchup in 2021, but was putting balls up in the rooftop at Coors Field. And just it was exciting. It's a moment. Actually, I have to pitch an idea for you about that 2021 home run derby. Again, coming off the pandemic and Ohtani really taking that full form, just launched him in the upper deck, taking a timeout, the entire stadium chanting Ohtani, Ohtani. And it was like, hey, baseball's back, America's back, civilization and society is back. What an amazing moment. So I think that's a good pick with the Dodgers. But, man, I'm going to lock this up here with the snake draft with the next two picks.
Yeah, what do you got here?
I'm going to make this a little bit dramatic, so I'll stick the knife in on my next pick. But right now, as I just alluded to, Harper took out Freeman in 2018. The Phillies also have themselves a home run derby winner. Harper won in 2018, where he actually defeated his teammate as a finalist, Kyle Schwarber. So you had both those guys going head to head in 2018. One was representing the Washington Nationals. One was representing the Chicago Cubs. So there's definitely some history there. And then Harper actually went to the finals in 2013, where he lost to ya boy, Yoenis Cespedes there in New York. And if you actually go back and look at everyone who's participated in the home run derby, if I would ask you, and here's your water cooler question of the day that you can ask to one of your coworkers or at a bar and say, what active player participated in the oldest home run derby? I don't know that anyone would say Bryce Harper in 2013 because he was such a young dude. But that's the last, or rather that's the last derby that had, or the oldest derby that had an active player, right? Everyone from 2012 and before that all retired. So Harper doing that thing. So you get Harper, you get Schwarber with the Philadelphia Phillies. And then as your third, do I want Castellanos? Do I want Bohm? Don't care. I got Schwarber and I got Harper. So right there, that's going to win it. I feel good about that.
Yeah, it's a good pick. The reason why I stayed away from the Phillies was that third guy. I didn't know who the third guy was, and so I'm nervous about getting out of the first round. But yeah, when you get to Harper and Schwarber, pretty clear that you have some pretty good options. You said something about stabbing a dagger or something? Who's your next pick going to be?
The New York Metropolitans.
I thought you were going there, yeah.
Two-time home run derby winner, Pete Alonso, who has performed really well in the last two derbies as well. So he's been really strong. I think from there you got your Francisco Lindor and JD Martinez, which it's not as surprising that Francisco Lindor has not participated in a derby, but JD Martinez, a guy like that, you think, oh man, he kind of seems perfect for a derby. And go ahead and hit the folks with that stat that I saw last night. Make sure you're following at Finkelstein Ryan on X and a lot of other social media platforms about Francisco Lindor and his home run prowess. I thought that was a great little post you fired off last night.
Yeah, he's 2 home runs away from passing or tying Jimmy Rollins for 10th most all time for shortstops, authoring a Hall of Fame career for sure. Lindor is, but the funny thing is, as much I absolutely love your pick, of course, everyone knows from what's behind me, and I'm kicking myself. Part of me wants to say, hey, can we trade the Dodgers for the Mets here? Because I love the Mets in this format. I feel like they have a really sneaky chance at it. And I don't think Lindor or JD Martinez would compete. I think it'd be the kids. I think it's Pete Alonso. And if you've been watching the Mets lately, there's been 2 guys that have really been a big part of their turnaround. It's Francisco Alvarez and Mark Vientos. Those kids have ridiculous power. Youth wins out in derbies a lot of times. So if to help you as far as your coach and what the Mets should do here, go Alvarez, Vientos to Alonso, and it might just be the dark horse that wins this whole thing.
When we were kicking this idea around and we were going to go with foursomes, number 4 is the dealer's choice. And I was like, I think it could be Vientos. I think that's the guy that you want there in the Derby as the number 4. So he's in the mix. But again, Alonso with the 2 Derby wins, the only player right now that's active that has 2 wins, doing it in back-to-back derbies, not back-to-back years. There was no All-Star game in 2020, and he still shows up and puts on a show. And it sort of seems like whoever beats him in the first round gets blessed going forward. And again, that was another one of those iconic moments in 2020, just bouncing around to Mobb Deep and just feeling good. He's doing the weightlifting, in the National League locker room. Like, yeah, Alonso. So, I mean, I don't even think I'm going to have a 4th pick. You got 2 more. Go ahead. I got this thing locked up. Thanks, Yuki Matsui. Appreciate that again.
Yeah, it's a tough road for me to try to get back into this race. Looking at some of the other options, the Braves jump out for sure.
You're just talking. You're just thinking out loud right now?
I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay,
you only got 1 pick left.
Okay.
I'll point you in a direction you might go towards. The Braves are an interesting one to me because you got Matt Olson, you got Marcell Ozuna, you got Austin Riley. The Padres jump out. Tatis, Machado, Jackson Merrill is the guy I look at. There's the Astros, if you want to believe in Tucker, Yordan Altuve. With all those teams, the one that I want to pick next, it's going to be the Guardians. And I'm going to throw a surprising name out there for you because we talked about Ramirez and Naylor. Who's the third? You know who I think the third is? Joenski Noel.
Oh,
okay. We're throwing a real wild card, a guy that just came up who has, grades for 70 grade power. A guy that I think we'd be like, okay, who's batting for the Guardians? But if you steal that first round and all of a sudden you got J-Ram and Naylor, I think the Guardians are a very sneaky dark horse in this race. I wanted to get them. So I like that I have the Guardians in this. And then for my final team, it's really tough to pick between the Padres, the Braves. I even like the Royals a little bit. Salvador Perez, Bobby Witt, Vinny P. But ultimately, the more that I look at it, I can't get around the idea of the Braves. The Braves, I think, deserve to be in this. Matt Olson, Marcell Ozuna, Austin Riley. That's my trio. They're my final pick here.
No, that's solid. Yeah, John Kenzie, Noel, the new Jordani Valdespin. Like, if you're looking for great names, and really the new Franmil Reyes, right? Like, just that big thumper. Like, okay, just this first 2 alone. Again, if you're talking about duos, home run hitting duos, J-Ram and Josh Naylor, have to be in that conversation. So anyone you get in third is just icing on the cake. Great pick. And yeah, and Atlanta, Ozuna doing it with the home run again this year. We know that Matt Olson's got a 50 home run season under his belt. Austin Riley is a guy that seems like he's due for 40 just about every single year. And if there's an injury, hey, Ozzie Albies is pretty good. And remember, we are including injured players. So
I forgot.
Ronald Acuna Jr.
Out of sight, out of mind, man. The Braves, a sneaky team at number 7. Yeah, throw Riley out for me. Olson, Ozuna, and Acuna. I like that group. I do. Who's our final pick, Patrick? Who's going to round out this tournament here?
You saved the day on that. And throwing batting practice is going to be Spencer Strider as part of his Tommy John rehab on that. Like, we're fantasy booking. Come on. What are we doing? Let's go.
Why not, right?
Tom Glavine, maybe put a little L screen up in front of him. All right. For my final pick, we'll get part of the logic or my research going into this, looking at teams that had at least, a couple guys that had 10 or more home runs. believe it or not, the Padres have a lot of guys with 10 or more home runs, but after Machado and Tatis Jr., it kind of comes up a little bit thin. So they're a team that I'm out on a little bit. Vladimir Guerrero, he does have one home run derby win. Also was a finalist one time. So, you pair him with maybe Bo Bichette's that guy. Joey Votto, is he the third off the bench? I mean, now we're having some fun, aren't we? Those were some options. Did see in the chat from someone, the Astros have a really strong trio, and Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, and then Altuve, despite his diminutive stature, still, he could definitely make some noise. He could be a solid contributor there. But I'm actually going to go with three guys. I believe all three of them have done. I think Marcus Semien did get involved. The Texas Rangers, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, who only participated once, and that was in his rookie season in 2016, and Adolis Garcia. Those three dudes can thump. We know they do it in the regular season. It's definitely a different beast during the home run derby, but those are the three guys that I'm going with my final pick, the Texas Rangers.
Texas Rangers are a nice pick. I think they have plenty of thump that you can lean in there too. So, yeah, I like that a lot. So now we have our 8 teams: Yankees, Orioles, Dodgers, Phillies, Mets, Guardians, Braves, Rangers. My question is, do we seed this based on the draft order? But then a lot of our own teams are going head to head, or do we do it based on our picks? How would you like me to kind of organize our little tournament field here as we play this out as a thought exercise on which group has the best trio for a home run derby?
Yeah, I don't want all my guys to be the final four. So
Okay.
we can cannibalize. We could go 1-8,
All
Yankees,
right,
Rangers, Phillies, Mets, and then that will give each of us an opportunity to match up in the finals. At least
you are doubting Joenski Noel way too much. Okay, Joenski Noel is going to win this tournament for the Guardians. All right, so let's break it down that way. So we got 1-8. Is there any world where the Rangers could take out the Yankees? So who are you putting up in the first round if you're the Rangers here to go up against? My assumption would be Stanton would be the first round hitter for the Yankees.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, I don't know how this is laying out. If you want, if you're going, for anyone that's ever participated in bowling, the last person that's in your 4 or 5 person lineup, that's your anchor. That's where it could all come down to with one spin of the ball. That's where it's going. So yeah, maybe you do want to have your bigger guys at the end. You kind of compare this to a relay race, 4x100, 4x400, whatever it may be. Of all right, look, we do need a little bit of a head start on that. So I might even sandwich Stanton in the middle there and lead off with Soto.
You might be right, yeah.
Go Judge last on that one, but I don't think there's any world in which the Texas Rangers trio can be better than the trio of Judge, Stanton, and Soto for the New York Yankees. I'd move the Yankees along on that one.
For sure. I actually think that's what would make this so fun if Major League Baseball ever did it, is that there would be strategy, right? Like if the 8 seed goes up first, they would put their best hitter probably to try to knock off the Yankees. And the Yankees, maybe they get to sit back and see how many home runs that hitter puts up and then think, all right, do we have to go to Judge in the first round? Because, oh my God, Adolis Garcia put up 30 home runs. We're going to be out of this thing. It would make this a lot of fun to see that back and forth. 2-7, Orioles versus the Braves. Now that Acuna's in the mix, I kind of feel like the Braves might be the team that moves on here. Very sneaky 7 seed. As much as I love Gunnar and Adley and Santander, to think about whether you put up Olsen, whether you put up one of the hottest hitters on the planet right now in Ozuna, or if Acuna, who has good knees, is in this tournament, I think the Braves move on. What do you think between those two teams?
This is absolutely an upset special. Atlanta is moving on to Baltimore, who has more depth than they do have front-loaded talent. I can't wait to see what Gunnar is able to do here at the Derby in Texas in a couple weeks. But Gunnar, Adley, they'll be fine. Who's going to be number 3? I don't know. Man, Acuna Jr., he's got some Derby experience. Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna. Yeah, number 7 is moving on.
Number 7 moving on. All right, so now we got another one of my matchups here. Dodgers, Guardians. I'm making the case for Jowenski Noel here. What do we think? Do the Guardians, with their back guys of Naylor and Jose Ramirez, are they better than Ohtani, Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, Betts, Will Smith? If this went 5 or 6 deep, it might just be the Dodgers. I don't know. What would you think? I'll defer to your judgment. Do the Dodgers move on here, or do the Guardians sneak up and we have 2 upsets?
Well, look, you and I, we dig into the numbers, we dig into the statistics. We like our fun facts to throw out there to say, man, first time since so-and-so, only Babe Ruth and this guy has ever done that, to kind of, give a little bit of a context to how great certain home run hitters are, or certain players just in general. That being said, I'm going to break the tie by saying you have not pronounced Jhonkensy Noel's name right one time this entire episode. Jhonkensy. Therefore, the Dodgers will be moving on.
Thank you for saving me from having to do that again. Some of these guys, until they establish a name for themselves, you just do your best guess. And Jhonkensy, I apologize. I did give you a lot of love, though. So you're welcome, Noel. And then also, I apologize. It goes both ways. That gets us to our last matchup of the first round. A little bit of NL East cooking here between the Phillies and the Mets. Here are your picks, but I think I'm taking the Mets. I mean, I'm biased, so we'll see what you think about it. But I think the Mets have they got Alonso, they got some young guys who can absolutely thump with Alvarez, Vientos, or if you wanted to go with the elder statesman of Lindor and JD Martinez, they got a deep roster. At the Phillies, it really falls off after Harper and Schwarber, but I'm not sure where you're leaning on this one.
I don't know. This is like a final right here in the first round, right? 2 NL East clubs. I'm torn. Alonso's got the 2 wins. Philly's got 1.5 wins. If you want to say, hey, Schwarber got to a finals once. Those 2 are better than I think any Mets 2. But then number 3, I probably would give the edge to the Mets. I'm going to let you decide this one, partially because you've been very complimentary this entire run of shows here at Who's Better Baseball. With the Phillies, you give praise, you see it how it is, you call it down the line, even if it is a team that the fan base does not like, or you might not like. You are very fair and honest. You tell me, who would win in this home run derby, Phillies or Mets?
I mean, who am I gonna say? Come on, I'm gonna take the Mets. Do you think I'm gonna upset the apple cart? There was a fleeting thought in my mind where I said, well, in the next round, if you're telling me you get down to Schwarber and Harper, if you had Schwarber in that second round, better chance of edging out the Dodgers in that potential head-to-head. But ultimately, if it's a first round and you're telling me the Mets are going to put Mark Vientos in there against Alec Bohm, it's going to be a battle of young third baseman. Who's the better player right now? Alec Bohm? Although I don't know. Vientos has been pretty good lately. You still got to give Bohm the nod as far as just longer track record. If it's just pop, though, home run power, there's no doubt in my mind that Mark Vientos would beat Alec Bohm in a home run derby. So the Mets move on. That gives us our final 4, Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Braves. And we open it up with the Yankees versus the Braves. I don't know how I make this argument. You got Juan Soto going up probably against, maybe it's Ozuna in that second round, or maybe it's Acuna. Maybe that's the funner one. If it was Acuna versus Soto in a derby, I think it really would just be dealer's choice. But I don't know if I can say that the Braves are going to beat the Yankees in a home run derby. I just don't know.
No, and they might give the best fight, I guess, of any team, because the 6 guys that you put up outside of Ozuna, I mean, we're talking, you could be looking at 5 Hall of Famers right there. I know Matt Olson's got a long way to go. Acuna Jr.'s got a long way to go as well. But these are right now, from their generation, just some of the best sluggers around. So, yeah, I think the Yankees, again, would win that one. But it would be fun to actually see it play out, because, again, what is true on paper isn't always true in reality. So, it would be incredibly interesting to see, how that would play out. But yeah, you got to like the Yankees over Atlanta on that one.
I think so. So Aaron Judge has made it to the final round. His teammates got him there. Who's he going to go up against? Dodgers, Mets. I don't know exactly who would be competing at this point for the Dodgers. This is where it would get very interesting, where a Mets could sneak in and take it. It's almost, who would you prefer to see in the final round, Shohei Ohtani or Pete Alonso against Aaron Judge? That's really where I'm looking at this one. What are your thoughts on Dodgers Mets in the second round here?
Well, yeah, again, depending on the matchups that we would have, that certainly would shift the narrative a little bit. But I think just the Dodgers, just one through three, right? Like those guys are just really strong when it comes to the home run. Freddie Freeman, I think you're right. I have my doubts in a home run derby how that would play out, because it's a kind of a different skill set than his. I feel like he's more hit to contact, but there's plenty of power in there. Whereas just having the stroke and just staying in that rhythm is going to do you that much more favor going forward with that. So still, I would tend to lean towards the Dodgers on that. Your team, the Dodgers, in going past the Mets in a home run derby like this.
I actually think that the Mets probably had the better derby hitters, but at the same time, if the Dodgers got through the first round without using Teoscar Hernandez, I feel like he's actually the guy that would have a home run swing that would cater itself to a derby pretty well. And if it ended up being Teoscar against Lindor, Teoscar against Alvarez, whatever it ended up being, I could see the Dodgers getting the edge, which then brings us to the conversation we just had. Judge Ohtani, who would be better in a home run derby setting at this stage? I don't know. What are your thoughts on, if they were both to compete this year in the derby, who would you put the money on? Would it be Aaron Judge or would it be Shohei Ohtani?
I feel like I have to go so far as to look at the dimensions of Globe Life Field to see right field or left field, who's going to gain an edge. If this was in Camden Yards, shoot, sorry, Aaron, but you got to go Ohtani. If this was at Yankee Stadium, you got to go with the left-handed swing, of course, of Shohei Ohtani. But these two guys going against each other, I would tend to think, Judge. I would give the edge to him. Yes, he does have a derby win. And Ohtani does not. He lost in the first round, but Ohtani still put on an incredible show in 2021. Had he gone up against anyone other than Juan Soto there in the first round, you could have seen him move on and, replenish, get some more of those electrolytes in, pace himself just a little bit. Everything that we know about Ohtani, he studies up for these things. So if he's got his mind made up on participating in the Derby, he's probably doing it before the season starts, and he's thinking about that. He's picking the brains of other guys who've participated in the home run derby, from Betts, from Teoscar, other teammates who've done that, and trying to figure out, okay, how can I do this? How do I stay fresh? It's a little bit of a marathon, but it is a sprint as well. And I think he would be very much schooled up to perform well, but the raw power of Aaron Judge, I think, would just come out on top.
I think you're probably right there. And this whole format would be so interesting, because I wonder if you would get some of the big hitters if they didn't have to go through 3 rounds. If you sold it to Aaron Judge, you're not competing for yourself. You're competing for the New York Yankees, and you're going to be part of this relay where you're going to see Soto and Stan the first couple rounds that get you to the final. It's all on you. I feel like it might get some of the better names back into this tournament, but also at the same time, as we're getting closer and closer to the Derby, maybe our next show, we might have a roster we can dive into and discuss. It's so much fun to see those new names get their chance. And we talked about a lot of guys throughout the show today who have that past home run derby glory, typically at the beginning of their careers. So Gunnar Henderson is the guy that I think all eyes are on right now. We'll see who else enters this race. Maybe you do see a Mark Vientos get in there just because they need to fill out a roster, and he's a young guy that's hit a lot of home runs. We'll see who else decides to step up and be part of it. Does Pete Alonso want to do it again? I think that would be his 4th derby, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it might be his 5th. I think he's participated in the last 2. Yeah, in LA.
Oh yeah, he won the first 2 that he was in 2019 and 21. So yeah, I think you're right. I think he has been in the last 2 and
He's addicted.
I would not be surprised at all if he still did it again. Personally, I feel like last year when I was watching, I'm like, man, you're almost ruining your Derby legacy by still going
Yes.
at it.
Yeah.
But
And,
it's still
and we almost had no more Alonso Derby. Because if you
yeah.
remember, and I know you do, after 21, he won it. In the beginning of 2022, for whatever reason, there was like, well, look, I'm not having a great first half. If they don't ask me, I'm never doing it again. I'm going to take my bat and I'm going to go home and I'm never going to do it. And then he's been in the last 2 derbies. Like he's hooked.
Yeah.
He's absolutely addicted to it. Alonso's going to be there.
Yeah, he probably will be. I can't remember if it was his first one or his second one, where his cousin threw to him. It might have been the second one. But like one of the most impressive Derby wins ever was watching Alonso win with his cousin, where his cousin threw some of the worst BP. All due respect to the cousin, I would be the same way. The amount of yips that I would have trying to pitch in a home run derby, it would be awful. But Pete Alonso made for that tournament. We'll see if he's in it. We'll be breaking down that whole roster whenever we get it on a episode of Who's Better Baseball.
Ellie
Appreciate
De La Cruz. Sorry, Ellie De La Cruz. Come
Ooh,
on. We got to put that out into the world
that's
so
true.
that it happens. That's the one other young guy that look, Christopher Morel. Okay, that'd be cool, right?
I think Morel, yeah.
He's young. But like if you're just talking about pure excitement, who you have to have Gunnar, you have to have Ellie De La Cruz. Make it happen, Bob. I'm talking to the commissioner. Bob, make it happen.
I agree. Yeah, let's actually. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other names that jump out. Has Rafi Devers ever done one? He's a guy that's got a lot of home runs this year.
I don't believe so. No.
So Rafi Devers, Brent Rooker got a lot of home runs. There's always a name in there. Like how did he get in?
Paul DeYoung? Are we doing that? He's got 15 home runs.
He does. Brian De La Cruz is 15 too.
Brent Rooker does deserve a reasonable consideration. He does.
Riley Green, 15 home runs this year. That's a young guy to make a name for himself. So there's a lot of potential to pack some young talent into this derby and see what happens. But yeah, Gunnar and Ellie De La Cruz. If you told me right now, dream final matchup in the home run derby this year, I don't know if there's anything better than Gunnar versus Ellie. That would be awesome.
And I can't remember because they've kind of screwed up the All-Star game a little bit with the different jerseys that they wear. Let the players wear their team jersey in the field so that the casuals know who the hell they're looking at and what team they play for. So I think they've reversed it. Instead of the home run derby jersey, now they wear their team jersey. The orange and the red, Orioles, Reds, Ellie versus Gunnar. Come on. Make it happen. Look, if we can rig the NBA Finals, let's just go ahead and rig the home run derby to make sure that happens. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's the matchup we want. And yeah, you are right. That is what they do. They should make it across the whole entire week. Let's just keep the guys in their actual jerseys. But we will see them wearing their own threads for the home run derby, and then it'll be National versus American League, just so they can sell those extra jerseys. Who's buying those this year? Come on. But we'll see how all these rosters shake out. That's another thing we'll be talking about next week. The All-Star rosters at some point are going to get released. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well to see how many guys can crack the game, how many guys are going to be out because of injury. It will be a ton of fun to discuss. We'll be back with another edition of Who's Better Baseball next week. Talk about all of it. Make sure you find our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Every single episode that we do on the streams, we break it up into smaller videos that are released throughout the week. So appreciate all of you. Check that out. We have the podcast as well, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And you can find us at Who's Better BB on social media and check out our next stream next week.